Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks interesting to you guys, please carry on and watch the video. And also just one more thing, if you enjoy what I do here, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. It really helps me out and it lets me know you guys enjoy these videos. So with all that out of the way guys, let's get into that video. Okay, so to start off painting this model of this Stormcast Eternal Knight Incantor, what we're going to do is we're going to use some rough iron for this. So I'm going to be painting this up differently than an ordinary sort of generic sort of Stormcast Eternal paint scheme. I wanted something a little bit different. I also go for sort of like a more evil sort of wizard look. I'm not quite sure what I'm going for here. It's just sort of a different paint scheme than is the standard Stormcast Eternal look with the blue and the gold. I wanted to try mix it up a little bit, see what I could do, and to do that I started off with some rough iron. I want to get that nice dark armor. I want to make him look like he's really imposing, so I'm going to be painting up all of his armored areas in this rough iron, which is going to give it a nice deep dark look. Okay, so after we've painted all of that armor in our rough iron, I'm going to be giving it all another color here, which I'm going to be using brassy brass to do this, and I'm going to be using this to be painting all of the trim of the paneling of the armor. So that's like the shoulder plate, nice big one on the breastplate there. It's got these very nice distinct edges on the trim, as a lot of the Warhammer Stormcast Eternal models do, and rather than going in with a gold or something like that, I wanted to switch it up with a brass color and give it that more imposing, menacing look that I'm trying to go for, and I think that's a great color, and also a color I don't use very often, so I thought it would be a nice change up here of something I don't usually do, and they work really well together with this nice deeper, darker, richer colors. So now we have the base colors done on that nice imposing dark looking armor. We're going to focus on his skin tones here, and I'm going to be starting off with a base flesh to do this, and of course picking this out, being very careful not to paint anywhere I don't want to, so a bit of brush control practice here, but not too much of a worry because we've only used our base coats for the armor, so we can easily tidy back up if we need to. And for this model too, he only has his face because he has a nice gauntleted arms. He's really armored up for a sort of spellcaster wizard. So just a nice simple area paint up, but we want to spend a little bit of time on that face, get it to really stick out because it's sculpted very nicely. Okay, so now we have that base color down for our flesh. We're going to come in with some neutral flesh, which is a nice lighter tone, and we're going to be using this for the highlights. So our wizard here, we've got a nice balding man, so we want to be getting the top of his head, places like the eyebrows, the bridge of the nose, and the little cheeks that are nicely sculpted in. Just a quick touch up there, just some nice places to get in those highlights. Then once we have his face highlighted up, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go a little generic here with the color, and I'm going to go with a nice grey beard, and he's got a little bit of like a sideburns and receding hairline there, and as you can see I'm focusing hard on this, so it means the camera's not in focus again, so sorry about that guys, but it's just coming in and picking out the little bit of facial hair he has as well as the hair around his head. So being very careful, using a fine tip brush to do this. Okay, so one other thing I did off camera is I painted up the eyes on our model here. Now, I did have the footage of this, but it was just as bad as the footage before. I thought I'll just cut that out and we'll just go straight into giving our model a wash. And this here is our skin tone wash. What we're going to use here is Reichland Flesh Shade, but you could easily just use a skin wash, whatever type of wash you feel will be good for the skin tone of our model here. And I'm just being careful to avoid little bits like inside the eyes, but you can easily just wick that up with your brush. Okay, so now with our model here, I'm going to go with a nice bold color for his overall sort of color palette, and this is going to be red. I'm going to be using Mephiston Red to do this, as Mephiston Red I find gives a really good coverage and has a nice color that I really do enjoy, and since I'm going for this really imposing magic user look with the model, I wanted to give it something, of course, a little bit different in style than the base color scheme for our Stormcast Eternals, so I went with red for this. Really make it stand out, having something a little bit different here than just painting up in the original Stormcast colors, which I've already painted in a video before, so I thought I'd mix it up here, go with a different color scheme. And you can see this red is nice and strong and it pops out, but don't forget to give it a couple of coats of paint as we're painting over black, and as it dries, red is notoriously a hard paint to get coverage on, so don't forget to do it in a few layers. Then once you're happy with our coverage of our red, which only took me 2 layers here because Mephiston red is actually a really good coverage paint. That's why I use Mephiston red a lot, as I really do like the coverage of it. But what I've done here is I've added in a wash, and this here is a black wash, so I'm giving it a wash over everything except for, of course, the face of our model, which we already painted up and given a wash beforehand. And it's just going around giving a nice complete wash overall, but being very careful not to get the wash anywhere you don't want to. With the poolings, this model has a lot of like nice folds and waves with its cloak that he has on here, so be careful of the wash accidentally pooling too much at the bottom, so just keep an eye on it as you're waiting for it to dry, maybe just wicking a little bit up with your brush, and of course giving it all over the metallic areas as well to really dull them down a little bit, so we can give them a bit more punching up a little bit later with our highlighting stages. Okay, so once that wash is completely dry, what we're going to be doing is we're going to come in with some deck tan here, and I'm going to be using this to be painting up some of the other cloth areas of the model. And he has these nice big long draping flowing bits of cloth on the model that really you could easily paint up in the red that we used before in the previous step. I wanted to add in another color to the model, give it a little bit more of interesting look and give it a few more varieties of colors rather than making it only 3 or 4 colors, and make the model look a little bit more interesting and have a few parts separated out from the others. There's nice big bold areas you can see in the model, and as you can see as we're painting this, it immediately gives a nice eye-catching another color to the model and other areas to look at over the entire piece. So just coming on deck tan, giving them a nice even coat. Then once we have those complete, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving them a wash, and I'm going to be using Seraphim Sepia to do this, a nice sepia tone wash to darken down that cloth, give it a very sepia tone, as the name implies, of course, over top, give it something a little bit more to look at, so it looks like it's a little bit more worn and used and a little bit more interesting. Now you could totally use the black wash over top of this as well if you're going for just more darkening it down, but I want to add in another tone of color into the mix and give it that more worn feel, and Seraphim Sepia is a great wash to do that sort of thing. Okay, so now we have that wash completely dry, we're going to move on to our next stage here, and this is going to be the highlighting stage of our model. And we're going to start off with our Mephiston red once again to highlight in our red areas. Now you could totally go for a brighter red here, but I wanted to keep it still the same overall red, as I wanted it to, like I said at the start, I wanted to go for more like imposing, scary sort of sorcerer up on a edge of a cliff sort of vibe is what I'm trying to go for here. So using the same color here, I wanted it to be, you know, just a highlight rather than punching it way up with a brighter look and give it that sort of still imposing, menacing sort of look. Okay, so as I did the highlights, I realized I was actually missing a piece of the model, and I want to be using some grey blue to do this, something really striking and different. And he has these sort of little, like, I'm not sure what they are, but I would say like little potion bottles is what it sort of looks like to me on the side of him here, and I wanted to go with a blue for this, a really super striking color of what we've done so far, just to give it a nice bit of little area to look where it can be a lot more eye-catching. So doing little things like that, we add in just a small amount of a completely different color can really help attract the eye to all over the model and really give you something to look at. And as you can see, it really does stick out quite a lot, and it gives a nice bit of focusing area over some of the other areas of the model. Then once we have those parts complete, what we're going to do now is come back in with our rough iron. Now, rough iron is still a very dark color, as you noticed when we placed it on first, but since we're giving that wash, you can see that what the rough iron has done when we're given that wash over top, it's really dulled it down quite a lot. But just placing our highlights back in with our rough iron is really just giving it more of a sparkly effect back with our metallic paint, rather than sort of brightening it up a lot where you could add a silver in and give it some really striking highlights. But I wanted to still, like I said, give it that imposing sort of crazy magic user look. Like, he's really menacing, and I didn't want to go too crazy with the highlights. I want to keep him still very dull and muted with his armor, give him something so he looks super serious and that type of thing. So going in with just a rough iron here and using it back on, and you can see it still gives off a great highlight, rather than what I might have done if I was trying to go for a more heroic sort of look. I would have gone with just mixing in just a little bit of silver in there to give it a little brighter color to the piece, but I want to keep that sort of menacing look with the armor. Okay, so this is one part of the model that I actually didn't think I was going to go over again. I was quite happy with the sepia wash. Like I said, I wanted to give him sort of that grungy appearance with the cloth over the top of it, but I found out while doing these highlights, it needed that punch, and to bring that punch back, I wanted to give it some highlights again and give it its life back into the color. Sometimes you can do that over a model where you think it's going to go one way, and like I said, I wanted it to be that dark, grimy, and he's been, you know, out on the battlefield a lot, really look like he's been out there, so I'd give him that sepia tone wash because it's all stained up cloth areas, but it just didn't look as good on the model as when you can give something a nice highlight and it can really be a focal point on the model and really be eye-catching to the piece. So I wanted to go for more eye-catching rather than keeping it sort of dank and dreary and dark with the sepia tone wash and make it all look dirty. I just think I want to go for a more impressive look rather than that, and so giving it a highlight's going to punch it back up and give it something more visually interesting to look at. Sometimes you've got to do that on a model. And you can see now that it looks a lot more visually eye-catching on the model as well. Now, what we're going to be doing is coming back with our brassy brass, and we're going to be using this as our highlight, of course, to be highlighting all of those trimmed areas, as well as those nice little filigree bits. As well as that, don't forget to do the staff as well that he's holding in his hand. Give that a good overall highlighting, because it's very, very impressive. It has a lot of ornate detail on it, so you want to be making sure you want to catch those edges and things like that. And it's got that nice pauldron here where he's sort of got like a lion on it, so I'm going to be picking out those areas in particular to give them a nice highlight and shine. So then once I'd done that and I was putting the highlights on our staff here, I felt like it was a little bit boring making it the exact same color as the armor, and I'd already painted it up, so I was trying to come up with a different way to enhance this piece. And what I thought is I could add a little bit of verdigris effect onto the actual staff itself, which give it a really bright, vibrant color, and also a cool effect over the pieces of the metallic area as well, to add in just a little bit more punch and something interesting to look at when you're looking all over the entire piece. And this could be a nice easy way to do something on metallics that can really add in a little bit of visual interest, is adding something like a little bit of verdigris or staining, something like that. And you can see here with that really bright verdigris color, it's really added in another interesting color to the entire piece as well. So let's see how this model has come out in the end, and let's go into those glamour shots and take a real good look at the entire piece. And with all that complete, we have finally finished painting up our Knight Incantor from the Warhammer Age of Sigmar's miniature line. And I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, whether you want to follow along with what I did here, or you just want to use this video as some inspiration in painting up your own miniatures. But with all that said, guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.